With equipment from ziplinegear.com, you can set up your own professional zipline, only having to buy one easy-to-use package. We're using the Quicksilver kit, which has everything you need to set up an awesome, safe zipline. Our zipline setups are a bit different than permanent installations, since we are setting up temporary lines that are only typically used for one day, but may service hundreds of people. This video depicts the setup of a 450-foot zipline across a valley in Colorado Springs. The zipline was set up and tweaked 3 times over 3 different days to obtain the final result. The video shows the setup and changes throughout the process, as well as some pointers picked up along the way. So we've got a pretty big hill, pretty big valley that we get to work with here, which is kind of nice because we don't have to worry about hitting the ground nearly as much. We have some trees to worry about. We're basically trying to go over to that rock spire down at the bottom in that little valley. So we got about 500 feet of line out right now, about 400 feet of rope, 100 and so feet of webbing, and now we're trying to pull it through the trees, see what, how long the line really is going to be, how long the zip line is going to be once we get this taut. Chelsea says really long. We got 500 feet of cable to work with. And it looks like we're going to use every bit of it to set it up, but obviously a little bit less once it's taut. If you're trying to pull all this stuff up by hand, the pulling end should probably be the rope side, not the webbing side. So we can use pulleys and a mechanical advantage to hoist this puppy up. Of course, really, ideally, we should be back down all the way on that rock where James is right now, so the weight of the rope works in our favor. But we're lazy to bring all our stuff over there. We got this nice taut, well, not taut, but we have this nice rope system going all the way across down to the bottom. And it'd be fantastic if we could put a carabiner on it and bring our cable down that way, instead of having to run it through the trees and pull it back up the same way that we did with the rope. And Tony had a good idea. Well, we got these knots in these ropes that are connecting the ropes together. Well, if we would have just thought a little ahead and put some duct tape around the knots and made it smooth, carabiner would have gone across it pretty easily.
We should build a device that will allow us to put the spool on it so that the spool will just unwind as we pull it out.
Yeah. So we're standing up at the top of the zip line. Tony and James are trying to get the zip line across our rope that's strung out. We got over the first knot, that's good. The rope system that we have isn't very tight, so the weight of the cable's pulling down the rope. We kind of figured that was going to happen. All right, they just cleared the last hurdle, which was the 1, 2, 3rd knot in the rope, connects 2 ropes together. So now that we're got across that, it's just a matter of time. Uh-oh, this doesn't look good at the end of the rope. Let's see how far they are down there.
Just shy.
Ah, actually that's perfect.
What is that?
That is perfect.
Woo! 500 foot zip line.
Got my turnbuckle all set up out as far as I want it to go, so that once we get it set up, we can use it to tension and tighten it. And we'll be doing the same thing on the other side of the zip line. Okay, so finally got the top anchor draft set up. We've got our turnbuckle going to our cable, the clamps. That's our dog Denali. This guy is going to some carabiners hooked to webbing, since we're not going around trees here. Trees are a little bit, large trees are a little harder to find here than small trees and large rocks are. So we've got a primary and a backup system. Our blue is our primary system. Our red is our backup system. Take a quick peek up at what that is. We got blue webbing going up to this tree here with a friction nut around the tree, at the base of the tree, strongest part of the tree. His root structure, looking at his root structure, it goes into the earth this way, and we should be safe with him. If not, we've got this big honking rock over here that we're cinched around. This guy shoves down in the earth really far. Our webbing is the weapon of choice here, since the webbing can take the abrasion of the rocks better than other types of material. And he's actually on a floating system where the tension can be taken up or taken out or used at will. All the way around. He's not coming off. And that's our top anchors until we find out if we need to adjust them or not. So here we are standing down at the bottom of the zip line. Here's our end of our cable. Going all the way up to the top of our zip line, which is basically essentially right in the center of the screen right now. It's pretty high, pretty far. 450 feet of zip line. It's gonna be pretty awesome. We've got our anchors down at the bottom, which is this humongous rock spire. This is about the most bomb-proof anchor one could ever hope for. This guy actually has a way to go under and around this whole rock. Go all the way around this humongous, many-ton thing. It's gonna weigh a whole lot more than we do on the line. So this ended up being a pretty good spot to end this at. All the way around. Now, it's also very beneficial about this location. So we got a nice little grass area to land in. So if all works out well, we can attach our brake to that shrub area in the center of the screen, and it's going to slow us down to the point where we'll be stopping hopefully prior to the end of this cable. We're going to adjust it to make it happen, and then we're going to have a system where you can release the brake to allow the person to go all the way down and come be able to put their feet on the ground and get off the cable.
Seeing just how bungee-licious this bungee is. Don't die.
We're attaching the cable brake here. We had to take the bolts loose, take the bolts out, and then there's a somewhat of a hinge there that you open up and then smack it back on there, tighten the bolts down, and Mike here is going to attach the bungee into this C bolt, and this will be our brake. We're going to make sure that the rubber part is facing the uphill direction.
We're down at the bottom, we got our cable up, grab her on, and we're realizing that the amount of come-along cable that we have to work with doesn't give us enough tension, enough cable to pull out to get the tension that we need to go this long distance. So what we end up doing is we've got the end of the cable going to a 4-to-1 mechanical system that goes up to the top of that tree. And what we're doing is, as we're getting the come along tight, we're going to tie the cable off onto itself to keep the tension on the cable while we move the come along further down the cable so that we can go through the tensioning process again. So our bottom anchor ended up being a lot higher than is ideal, as we wanted the bottom anchor to go down basically all the way to the ground so that one could possibly step off and undo themselves. That's not going to happen. So, Tony, what are we going to do instead?
We're going to level it out, get a shovel, level it out. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Paying attention to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can put the ladder here and get people down.
Alright, well, it's time for the dummy to give this thing a try. I'm headed up, Tony! We're about ready to do a test run. Woo-hoo-hoo! Holy smokes! Holy smokes, that was fast!
Here he comes, and now, right about now, we're really hoping this brake works. And the brake worked. All right. All right.
Is this your first zip line?
This is my first zip line.
All right, really? Chelsea's doing her first zip line.
Ziplinegear.com.
Thank you, ziplinegear.com. All this gear that we got from ziplinegear.com is rated for well faster speeds than what we're doing.
You know, I've been real impressed with ziplinegear.com so far.
Yeah.
A lot of good safety gear. Nobody's hit the rock yet.
That's right. Okay, so lesson learned number whatever it is. This is always the hardest part when you first set up a zip line. You don't really know exactly which way your anchors are going to be pulling, because it's really hard to determine just from an eyeball from way down there exactly where it's going to go. You see that this red line is going around this tree. What we're thinking about doing ultimately, for a couple reasons, is moving the anchors to the left and up a little bit. One reason why, because this poor tree right here is also, we had the cable on the wrong side of the tree here.
Hey, Kristen, you haven't talked about it.
This cable should be going to the right side of this tree. Of course, really hard to tell when we first start, but draft number 2, I'm gonna fix that. The other thing we're thinking about doing is actually running the cable a little bit higher, up to this really pretty, but not exactly alive, fully alive tree. Now what we're thinking about doing is using the tree as the anchor, not the anchor point, but to guide where the anchors go, with the anchors going behind it. So actually I'm pointing right now exactly to where I'd like the cable to end up, right in the V of the tree. And behind it, the anchors would still go to the trees, into the rocks, just like it did today. However, we'd be a little bit higher starting off of this thing. So here we are, second day, putting up the zip line, working out all the kinks, making it more efficient, making it better. We're gonna document as we go. Okay, here we are. We've got our rope guide up. We used a little 2-to-1 mechanical system to pull the tension out of the rope. Right now he's clipped off over here. And our rope is sending it all the way down to the end. Now we're gonna attach our cable to the line as such. We're going to attach a piece of webbing to it so that we can guide it down. And this thing is going to slide down the rope over the knots all the way down to send our cable down to the bottom so that we don't have to manhandle it, and so we can leave our handy dandy spool that Tony made up here. It's pretty neat. It's got a handle to be able to actually retrieve the cable when we're done. When we first set it up, it ended up being a little too high on the top of this rock, both on this side and on this side. And we're thinking most of the reason why is that our top anchor point is a bit higher and a bit more off to the left, which changed the angle, both the vertical angle and the horizontal angle of the zip line. So what we ended up having to do was redo it and make sure that the anchors were nice and low first, and then put just a guideline that kept it low. As you can see, there's really not much tension on this guideline. It's just there to keep the anchors from riding up. We also put the high anchor point up the very top of this rock. And again, you can see there's not much tension on it. All these two things are really doing is stopping this. I can't even move this thing up and down. So when the zipline participant comes down the zipline, our anchors are staying still. They're not moving up and down, which means they're not rubbing up and down against the rock. So now we also have a new exit system. Go around the other way. Yeah, get up there and show us. So the participant's going to be coming down on the line. They're going to be clipped in. Be a little bit. The zip line's going to be a little low because the person's weight is going to be on the zip line. And we've got basically 2 ladders that are connected with a platform, all with some legs for support down at the bottom, which we're going to be putting some sandbags on to prevent any rotational force this way. And the zipline volunteer is actually going to take the person off of the zip line. Said the zipline participant with their shaky hands doesn't have to do it themselves. They're just going to do that by standing on the platform, and when they're done they can step off the ladder or do a little butt scoot off, whichever they feel like. We changed the position of our top anchors to move them over slightly, ever so slightly to the right, which actually seems to make it clear some little bushes in our way a whole lot better than when it was about a foot over to the left. Little adjustments make big differences. We found that both on the anchors at the bottom and now on the anchors at the top. Okay, gotta make the brake tighter. There is slack in the zip line as you send a bunch of people down, so we have to tighten it as numbers of people go across. Hence the turnbuckles and their ease of tightening. The brake that we have has to go down on an angle to the ground, up to the zip line. So when the brake is pulling very hard, it's actually pulling kind of diagonally on the brake itself, and it tends to eat into the brake block. So we're gonna need to think about that, how to fix that.